Welcome to the Feminine Truth Podcast with Mary Miranda, a place where you can reconnect with your wild, cyclical, and fierce truth. I am Mary Miranda, a mentor, guide, healer, and intuitive coach. I guide women on a journey of remembrance, reconnection, and embodiment of their inner feminine truth. Join me each week to tap into raw, unedited, and unfiltered sacred conversations to help women tap into their inner feminine truth to become bold, unshakable, and apologetic in who they truly are. Let's jump into today's sacred conversation. Welcome to another episode of the Feminine Truth Podcast with your host, Mary Miranda. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you my first human design conversation. And I've followed her and I've known her for a few years now. And I'm so excited to bring to you Libby Hoffmann. Welcome to the podcast, Libby. How are you?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, so I am so excited to have this conversation because human design, it's not easy to embody. There's a lot of information behind it. And I think the hardest part is the embodiment of it. And I have been following you for the past few years. And I think I found you in someone's group and you were doing human design readings and things like that. But I'm so excited to have this conversation. And to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about like who you are and your story, and just like let's start there for now.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a great place to start because my journey with human design started in 2018, so about 4 years ago now. And like you alluded to, it can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of information, and there are so many layers of the human design system that you could really work on your alignment your entire life. There's never a time when you are going to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm in alignment. The journey is complete. It's really not about that. It's about the journey and really continuing to uncover all those layers to embody in deeper and deeper ways. So yeah, when I first was introduced to human design, it was like, what is this? Because I saw, if you are familiar with your body graph, your human design body graph, there's lots of different numbers and colors and shapes and a lot of things going on. And like I said, it can be super overwhelming. So, but I'm a projector type in human design. And once I started just kind of reading more and practicing more with myself and my family, everything just clicked at that practical level for me. And I realized that human design is really just a way to communicate and to put a language to a lot of the intuitive things that I had known my whole life about human energetics and the way people think and operate. And especially being a projector, that's like one of my gifts, is seeing into other people, being able to guide them to themselves and who they are, and really illuminating other people's strengths and their sources of wisdom. So I started with human design in 2018, like I said, and a lot of things that I had gone through in my life, a lot of the resistance and challenges that I had gone through, especially having a very dark postpartum period with my first child back in 2015, I realized how practical human design could be for people. And it's not just, conceptual, you can use it in your everyday life. And so in 2019 is when I birthed Modern Homemaker, which is my business umbrella. And it's really about making a home for your soul on this planet. And we do that no matter who we are, what our gender is, what our age is, what we do in life for work, or if we have children or not. Being a homemaker is really a neutral term, right? So that was kind of the concept for me to really take back the power of that word homemaker, that label, and make it for everyone. Now, primarily, I do work with women and women identifying people and mothers. But really, being a homemaker is for everyone. So, my work really is focused around guiding women and mothers back home to themselves. That's basically what I do. And that way they can thrive abundantly from the inside out.
That's amazing. The thing that's ringing for me, it's how can one shift from the heaviness of homemaker? How can we shift? Because for me, the word when I listen to it is housewife, is doing the cleaning, the cooking, and all of that, which is so conventional.
Absolutely.
But your concept is very non-conventional. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, how can we start seeing this label of homemaker differently?
Yeah, totally. And yeah, it has a lot of negative connotation, right? When you just hear homemaker, you think of exactly what you just said. And it seems to kind of be an antiquated term in a way. Like we don't really use that word anymore. But yeah, I see just so much potential for that. And really, so many people, when they come into my world, they feel really empowered by that. Like, yeah, I make a home for my soul with every breath I take. That's one of the things that I say a lot is you make a home for your soul with every breath you take, and you have a choice for that to be limiting or freeing in every moment. And my mission is to guide people to that freedom.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. That feels less heavy in my body. I don't know why that word feels so heavy. Maybe I think I still have to do some work in my feminine lineage with that word. And I feel like that's probably why it's so heavy.
Yeah,
But
I get that.
I
It's
do
like a
like,
patriarchal thing.
yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, that they
But
like turn that into homemaker. Like, yeah.
yeah, so like I like this because it's a little polarizing when you think about it, because a lot of people can have so many opinions on this word, and for you to make this your business name, your brand name, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's why I chose the modern part,
Mhm.
right? Because um, I wanted to have that juxtaposition in a way. And I'm an Aquarius sun sign. So that's kind of my thing, just naturally to be a little radical, more radical in my thinking and really focus on the collective energy. But yeah, so modern really lends more of that edge to the homemaker part. And it's really about remembering that modern is what we're moving forward with. It's progressing that homemaker antiquated term into something new and beneficial for everyone.
Okay, it's like kind of like changing the history behind this word. It's kind of like changing, I guess like the paradigm that holds this word, because it's huge, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so like now you have this beautiful concept for your brand and your business and the work that you do and helping women make a home for their souls, right? How do you integrate human design into this?
Yeah. So human design is really the main tool that I use in my guidance and my programs. I offer one-on-one sessions, which are so powerful for people who especially have never, even known about themselves at that personal level, like energetically. Because, your human design is really just your energetic blueprint. So it shows you where you have those strengths that are super consistent for you, all of that definition that you have, and then where you have that potential for wisdom. And so when you know all of those things about yourself, that really sets you at a really solid foundation for every aspect of your life, really, whether that's career, business, whether you work for someone else or you have your own business, in your caretaking, if you are a mother or a parent, or you're a non-traditional caretaker that takes care of their own parents or a family member. It can help you know how to set your boundaries around your energy so that you can protect your energetic levels so you don't get burned out. And when you do, start to get out of misalignment and get burnout or exhaustion, or you're feeling frustrated or bitter about how you're committing your energy, then you know those things that you can give to yourself and how to realign much more quickly than if you had no idea like what was really going on inside yourself that was affecting your outside reality.
Mm-hmm. So basically, let's just go back to a little bit of basics, because I know there's going to be a few listeners that are going to be like, what is human design? So it's your energetic blueprint. For me, is a tool for self-discovery to get to know myself better. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But at the basic level, how can you explain to someone what human design is? Someone that has never been introduced to the tool, how would you even start guiding them on that?
Yeah. So the big thing to remember about human design is that it's really, it's not a personality test where you are like answering questions about yourself and then it like tells you like your, different information. It's not like that at all. It's actually a combination of ancient sciences like astrology, the Kabbalah tree of life, the I Ching, some other things combined with modern science like technology like quantum physics, genetics, biology, especially DNA, genetics, which I already mentioned. But it's really the synthesis of all of these things that we have used for so long to know more about ourselves as humans. And it combines everything in a system. So it's really, it's something that can be used in a synergistic way. Like if you are already into astrology or you're already into, I can't think of there's one with the life path numbers. What is that one called? Like numerology. What is it?
Numerology. There's numerology. There's
yeah, like all of those different
like,
things you can use in combination with that. So it's not that, human design is the best or anything like that. It's not a replacement. And I like to really think about, especially with astrology, because I love astrology as well. Astrology to me is more like the conceptual ideas of your life and who you are. And human design is more like the mechanics of how you operate. So if you think about it like a computer, astrology is like that software that's running, and human design is like the hardware. So everything about your design, when you see it on a screen or on paper, is 2D, but it's actually just a 2D representation of your 3D, 4D body, your energetic body. So everything that you see on your chart, there's a biological correlation. So just as an example, like one of the centers in human design, and the centers are kind of like the chakras in the chakra system. One of them is the solar plexus, and that is our center of emotional energy. And that acts like a detoxification motor for processing and detoxing the body and processing water. So some of the organs of our body that are connected to the solar plexus are like our kidneys, our lungs, our digestion system. So it's a very practical, like I've said already, about the system. So and that's why, again, there's so many different layers. So the first thing that you can do if you're new to human design is to look up your chart, is to just take a look and familiarize yourself with your body graph and what it looks like, because that's really important. A lot of people will look up their design and then forget what even just the centers that they have defined. And then it's really hard when you are listening to people talk about design, or you find something on the internet or whatever, and you don't remember what you have defined and what you have open. And then it's hard to practice that embodiment if you're just not even familiar with your body graph. So that is something that I really stress with people for beginners, is like, just know your body graph, like save it on your phone, know what it looks like, so that you can practice it in a practical way, and even start to identify those areas in your body of the energy, and remember, like, oh yeah, that's defined for me, so I can feel that consistent sacral energy. And it helps you tap in that physical embodied way when you can think about it visually as well.
And so, okay, so then we have this body graph and everything. What are the types of human design? So for example, if I look at it, obviously I know my type, I'm a generator, but how many types are there? And are there any other things that people just, if they know those two things or three things, then they have a like a good beginning, I guess, knowledge of what human design, because it's a lot. It's a lot. If you
Yes.
don't have someone that can help you understand and connect everything to make sense, you're gonna feel so lost, and you're gonna be listening to all these people,
Yes.
and you're gonna be trying to make up what it means for you. But it's so much easier. So like, for example, like I came to you for you to help me with my embodiment of my human design. And even though I knew what my type was, my authority, my not self theme, and all of that, it's still really hard to connect all the dots and see how things work. So you really helped me with that. So how many types are there, and just like little things that people need to understand so they can understand more about human design?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It definitely helps to have that foundation that you can just start your experiment. That's what we talk about in human design, is this is an experiment. It's a scientific system. And so it's not a belief system. You don't have to believe in anything. You can just try it out for yourself. Actually, that's what the founder of human design, Ra Uru Hu, he actually always said that, like, you don't have to take my word for it. Just practice it for yourself and experiment. Like, it's an experiment. So yeah, so in human design, when you get your body graph, you're going to see several big things labeled for you, like especially if you use my bodygraph.com. That's my favorite one. So you're going to see your type, which there are 4 different types, and that means energetic aura types. So your energetic aura, that becomes like the foundation for how you are portraying yourself to other people, and how other people are like feeling your aura. So there's 4 types. So you're a generator type, like you said, that's the biggest type. And the generator type is actually has a subset type, a manifesting generator. So the big thing with generator and manifesting generator types is they have that defined sacral. And so that is the big life force energy that really makes the whole world go round. And because you have this defined, it's really important for you to use that in satisfying ways so that it becomes this healthy, generative energy for you, so you can be satisfied, but also that affects everybody on the planet. So that's the first type. And most people are generators or manifesting generators. That makes up about 70% of the world population. And then the next type, if you want to talk about how, the percentages, are projectors, and I'm a projector. And within the projector type, there are a lot of different subtypes. There's several different subtypes. So, for example, I'm an emotional projector because I have emotional authority, which means I have that solar plexus defined. And that also means I'm an energy projector because the solar plexus is a motor. So you can have projectors that have energetic motors defined, but not the sacral defined. So projectors never have their sacral defined. It's always undefined or open. And we make up about 20% of the world population. I don't know if I said that. And then the next type are manifestors. And manifestors, to be a manifestor type, you have a defined throat that is connected directly to one of the motor centers, but not the sacral. So that would be a throat connected through the spleen to the root center, or your throat connected to the heart center, or your throat connected to the solar plexus. And the manifestors make up about 8%, 8 to 10% of the world population. And then we have reflectors, and that is the rarest type. And reflectors have all centers undefined. So they look really open. So there's not any colored in centers in their body graph. And a lot of people assume that because they're so open, that reflectors are like very weak, or they just like have all of this energy coming in all the time. And that can be true. But reflectors actually, because they don't have like a focus of conditioning, of energetic conditioning from other people, they're actually pretty resilient to taking in conditioning from other people. They can sample energy in an energetic way very easily, but they really take in the cosmic transits more so than from people that are around them. But environment is super important for reflectors, and also manifestors and projectors, because we don't have that defined sacral. So it's really important for all of those three types to have rest and have lots of boundaries around overusing that sacral energy, because it's really easy for us to burn out if we don't have that awareness. And so, like you also mentioned, each energetic aura type has a not self theme. And this is just what we call that sense of misalignment in human design. So it's just a guidepost to know like when you need to reevaluate where you're committing your energy, maybe where you're not setting boundaries, where you're overgiving, where you're not following your authority, which I'll talk about briefly next. But so for generators and manifesting generators, that not self theme is frustration. And then for projectors, it's bitterness. For manifestors, it's anger. And for reflectors, it's disappointment. And so something else to remember is like everybody has all of the different energy available in their body. So just because you have a center or a channel open, it doesn't mean that you never experience that energy. It just means that it's inconsistent for you. So something to remember, that even if you are a projector, you can still feel frustrated. Okay. It doesn't mean that you're never going to feel frustrated, or that frustration is not a signal of misalignment. It just means that most of the time that bitterness is going to be your cue for the misalignment. Does that all make sense?
Yes, no, it totally does. And it's so, you explain it in a very simple way that makes this complex tool feel like, oh, it's not that bad. It's kind of easy to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for people that are new, if you can just focus on yourself and getting a good understanding of yourself, instead of trying to like take in everything and like look up, all of the different types or all of the different profiles, which I'm not going to get into that right now. But like trying to really focus on yourself, that is the best thing to start out with, because as you embody your design and the way you were created to be here, that is only going to trickle out and create that ripple effect for others, right? So when you are more yourself, then that allows other people to be more themselves as well around you. So don't feel like you have to, especially if you're a projector, and because projectors really like, they just get the system like super quickly normally. So just like take your time. It's not a race. It's not, make sure that you are embodying it at that personal level first before you want to like change the world with human design, if you like really get into it. Yeah, so I guess I want to mention authority too, because that is a big piece of the foundation. So once you know your type and that not self theme and that signature, which let me mention that I forgot to do that. So opposite of the not self theme is your signature of alignment for your type. So for projectors, that's success or feeling recognized. For manifestors, that is peace, because you are just feeling peace through your decisions and through how you're impacting others. You don't feel resistance, you just feel at peace. For generators and manifesting generators, that's satisfaction. And that's really something important for generator, Manny gens to ground into, is that satisfaction, so that you can just experience that satisfaction and know what it feels like, so that you don't miss it. Because it's so easy for you when you have a lot of energy too. And, if you're not taking those steps to kind of disconnect from that hustle kind of overly masculine culture, you can really miss that satisfaction part, because you're just skipping right through it and trying to continue working. And then for reflectors, it is, so disappointment, it's surprise. So I like to think about surprise because that's kind of a hard, like, it's not as relatable, but surprise to me is like joy or delight. So for reflectors, they really, when they are in alignment, they really just enjoy life and how new and fresh it is every day, because their energy can really be changing every day as they experience those transits that I mentioned. And so just finding surprise and delight in that, instead of, trying to go against it, trying to force their energy in a different way than what they're actually feeling and experiencing. Mm-hmm. So it's that joy and delight for reflectors. Okay, so authority. Authority is how you make decisions with ease and with confidence. So this depends on which centers you have defined. But because the energetic types are synthesized from the combination of defined centers that you have, it kind of mathematically, it just kind of works out to where, most people with a certain type are going to have one or two different authorities. Okay, so for example, generators and manifesting generators have their sacral defined always. So they always at least have sacral authority, because the sacral is the top of the hierarchy in authorities. So then they can also have emotional authority. So if your solar plexus is defined as a manifesting generator or generator, then you automatically have emotional authority. And that's because in our bodies, that emotional energy is really the loudest. So and I have emotional authority, so that's why I say we. So anybody with emotional authority, it's not that we make emotional decisions, but it's that we get a perspective of our decisions through those emotional waves. So as we move through those highs and lows and we build our awareness, that gives us awareness about what decision would be best for us. And something important with authority is that I'm talking about decisions that are really important. So I'm not necessarily talking about like what you're going to eat for lunch, but it's like who you're going to work with, who you're going to be in a romantic relationship with or a loving partnership with. If you're going to have children or not, if you're going to move to a different place, physically or at a different job or something like that. So these are those major decisions that will affect your part and place basically in life. Okay. So emotional authority is really important to understand, especially if you have it, because again, it's not about making emotional decisions. It's about having that range of perspective so that you can wait until you're in more of that even place in your emotional waves to make that more and clear, informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a couple. So those are the two big ones, because about 50% of the world population has emotional authority because they have a defined solar plexus. And then, like I said earlier, most people are manifesting generators or generators. So that is a big percentage of people that have sacral authority as well. And then there's a few others, like ego or ego authority, which is for projectors or manifestors. And this means that your ego, your heart center, which is actually your motorized willpower, is your authority. So it's really important for you to listen to how you want to support yourself and your desires and like you thriving, and then everybody else around you is affected by that. So when you have a healthy ego, then everybody else around you wins as well. And in a human design, ego is not like the ego that we think about, like just in psychology. It's more that willpower. It's more that physical ego to like be first, to be competitive, to be connected to the material plane, things like that. And there's also splenic authority, which is another big one. So there's a lot of projectors that have splenic authority. And that is if your spleen is defined, but you don't have a defined sacral or that defined solar plexus. And the spleen is all about intuition. So this is about survival instinct. It's about health and safety, like feeling your immune system, whether something is healthy or safe or not. And your intuition in the spleen is really this deep knowing. So it's different from that nervous system energy where it's more like that nervous energy, right? The spleen is more just like, something is good or healthy or safe for you, correct for you or not. And it's really moment by moment. So if you're not tuned into that, it's kind of hard to miss, or it might be hard for you to honor that because it's illogical. Our mind does not always meet with our intuition coming from our body. So if you are someone who has not practiced listening to what your body and your intuition says over what your mind is telling you, then it'll be more challenging for you to listen to that splenic intuition. And same thing for the sacral, going back to the sacral authority. That is important work that I do with a lot of my generators and manifesting generator clients, is just tapping into that physical response. So the sacral is a physical gut response. And a lot of generator types are like, yeah, like so much in my life, I've just felt like that gut response, but I've been afraid to listen to that. Or I even don't like, I remember what that felt like when I was growing up, but now I've listened to my mind so long, or like what society wants me to do, that it's so much quieter and I don't like feel tapped into that. So that's really important for your type, is to really trust and feel physically what that response feels like. So I don't know, like, would you describe it, Mary? Like what that gut response feels like for you?
For me, it's a very physical response in my gut. It just feels like a yes, yes. And I buzz with energy throughout my body. It feels like vibrating energy that stems from my sacral. I don't know. That's the way it feels for
Mhm.
me. And I feel excited. I feel lit up when I'm like, yes, yes, this feels so good. I don't feel fear. And I also have a defined spleen, and I don't feel anything like as far as fear or anxiety or that nervousness or that doubt.
Mhm.
It's just like a very confident yes.
Yeah. Like that deep knowing.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love what you said about how you can feel it like radiating. It's like a
Mhm.
juicy kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a fire. It's like a fire that like builds and generates.
Mhm.
It's literally generating
Mhm.
that energy for you. Yeah. And so some people also describe it as like an opening, like you're opening, like you feel your body opening to something or someone. Or on the opposite side of that, if it's a no, like a hell no, then it's like a contraction. Like
Yeah.
you might even feel like, oh, like, yeah,
I feel
like I don't
tight.
want that.
I feel tighter,
Yes.
constricted, like it's a contraction. My body kind of caves in. I don't know.
Yeah.
When you look at the video, you'll be like cave in.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain it, but yeah, that's what it feels like when it's a no. When it's a no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So making sure that you practice uh, letting people ask you yes or no questions, that's really big because that's how the sacral responds. It responds yes or no. And so that's something that like both of my kids are manifesting generators. And that's something that I've really tried to practice with them since I found human design. They're 7 and almost 5 in a couple of weeks. So I haven't had human design their entire lives, but luckily I found it pretty early on in their lives. But even whenever and they have defined hearts also, so they have big egos. Um, so a lot of times when they say, like, I want something or I want this, um, I will repeat that to them as a question so that they have that extra time to be like, yes, I want that, to let that sacral respond. And that's something just really practical that I do. And
Mhm.
so that's something that you could even do with yourself to kind of practice that reparenting.
Mhm.
Um, that way, you can just practice and embody that process of letting your sacral respond and honoring that.
Mhm. Mhm. I feel like this is like for me, human design, there's a strategy, there's a structure, is very masculine energy. And when I started reconnecting with myself, so like I said, I use this tool for self-discovery to get to know myself more, to get to know and reconnect with my energetic blueprint and who I really am. So I used to do like the Enneagram. I used to do like those all those tests, but they were based on personality and they were based on answering questions. So the answering the questions depended on the mood and what I was going through. So it was very unbiased for me. So when I found human design, it's when I started doing my healing work more at a deeper level. And for me, this was a huge way to reconnect with my body, to reconnect, especially because I'm a sacral authority. So it's getting reacquainted and reawakening my intuition. That's how I started using it. It was like, okay, like I left toxic relationships where I ignored my intuition, my inner knowing, the nudges, and all of that. And I was frustrated the entire time, of course, because I was out of alignment, right? So when I discovered human design and I learned my authority and just like the basics, I was like, oh my God, so this is what it feels to really listen to my intuition, to know and listened and trusted. That was a huge thing for me. So now, if I think about human design, like I said, it's very masculine energy because there's structure, strategy, there's things you need to know, there's like all of these things. How do we begin harmonizing the masculine and the feminine energy by using human design?
Yeah, I love this. I love this conversation. So, yes, I mean, in human design, it's the human design system. So it is very masculine, structure oriented. And something that I remind people when they are really studying human design, like they want to like integrate it into their business, like to teach other people human design, is that human design was founded by a man, and a man that was actually in like marketing and publishing and like that kind of, and it was like in the 90s. So like that was like the height of, you know, that masculine, like toxic masculine, you know, that whole structure. So and he was also a manifester. And something with manifestors is that they're here to find their people. And so they can actually, for the wrong people, they can rub those people the wrong way. Like manifestors are here to just impact and to initiate, and the right people will continue their work. So that's kind of like a lens that you have to remember when you, especially when you read like some of the original text, and like if you go into the education at the International Human Design School, which is where I started my education, my formal education, which I do highly recommend that. But it is a lens that you have to remember is there on this structure. It's a structure. It's very masculine. But I love what you said about how that structure, how this tool, which is what the human design system is, it's just a tool. It's not like, even with the strategy that exists for each type, it's still just a tool, right? It's not a rule that, oh my gosh, if I'm not responding to life as a generator, I'm going to break my life, or I'm going to ruin my life. You have to remember that it's not like these rules. It's not a belief system, right? Like you're not going to hell if you don't, respond to life. Like that's not what it is. So I love that you said how this tool really put you back into your body. And that is where we connect to our feminine, right? Is the body, and remembering this wisdom and connecting to that wisdom that exists in our body, that spiritual side of ourselves, that emotional side of ourselves. And that's what I love about human design, is it really does honor all of that energy that is in our bodies, whether that is the more masculine, where it's a motor, so like the sacral, the ego, or whether that is an awareness center that is more intellectual, like the mind and the ajna, which is actually a part of your mind energy. So your head and your ajna make up the centers of your mind. But yeah, so, and when you think about it, that's how the masculine works, right? The masculine creates systems and structures and gives us tools that we can create space for emotions and safety for emotions and pleasure and wisdom and intuition, all of those kind of feminine things. It creates space for that. And I really think that that's how the human design system works. It's this structure that gives you the language and the tools. And then, like you said, you take that in your own way to really see and connect to who you are in that physical way. And then it helps you trust your intuition. It helps you trust that feminine side of yourself, because you have that structure in place to create and to uphold what you're feeling, right? Because you have that body graph in front of you to know, like, I have a defined spleen, so I can trust my intuition in that way. Like I can trust that my juicy sacral energy, when it's in that pleasure, feminine side, that I can trust that that is right and correct and healthy for me. It's not something to shy away from, especially like as women, we're kind of taught to shy away from like being sexy and being in that juicy, you know, pleasure energy, right? Um, so yeah, I think human design is that structure that helps us build trust with all of those feminine parts of ourselves. But then also, you know, human design, it's that energy. So if you think about it, and this is going to take me into the children's book that I wrote,
Oh, yes.
actually.
I'm so
So
excited
if
to talk
you,
about that too.
yeah, me too. So, well, I'll just start there because that'll help me move into what I'm going to say next. So I wrote a children's book that is based on the human design types loosely, but it has a lot of human design language. And it is really meant to empower not just kids, but remind us adults and children alike of the light that we have inside of ourselves. So it's called We Are All Light. And I, like you said before, earlier, like really, you can explain human design really simply. It doesn't have to be super complicated. And that was one of the things that I realized in the beginning when I was introduced to the system is like, yeah, it has all of these complexities and different layers, but it's really simple. And it could be really simply related to kids and to new mothers who have babies who can know that design and start honoring who they were created to be right from the moment they were born. So I wanted to create a book that was kid friendly, that introduced these concepts of how we are all light, but we can all be different. And all of our different energies and what we're here to do is all good. And it's all necessary and integral to who we are as people on this planet. So that is my book. Actually, I have it right here. I'll hold it up. When you see
Oh,
the
it's so
video, you'll see.
pretty. Yeah.
um, but so we are all light, and we're created of light. We have electricity in our bodies, right? And that is just what our body graphs show us, is what is that consistent energy that's plugged in, that creates that closed circuit all the time that we can trust. So that's all of your definition in your body. So where you see your centers defined, and your centers are defined through those channels that come together and create that quantum of energy in a center. And all the little hanging gates that you might see defined in your chart. So we're all just energy. And so I like to think about that definition where you're consistently defined and plugged in is that masculine, more masculine energy. So that is your strength. That's what I like to call your strength. So this is also where you, because you're strong and consistent in those areas of energy in your body, that's also where you're going to be giving energy to other people, right? And that's, again, another quality of masculine energy is giving. You're already that giving energy. And then, so on the other side of that, you have all of the openness that is in your body graph. So again, just because it's open doesn't mean that it's an absence of energy. It doesn't mean that you don't have that energy in your body. It just means that it's inconsistent. So you don't always feel it in the same way. So it's open to being able to receive that energy from other people and from the transits. So that is that more feminine side that you can relate to in that way. So again, your definition where you see colored in areas on your body graph, that's your strength. That's your masculine energy that you're giving others, that you're transmitting to others. And then your openness is that source of wisdom where you're taking in, where you're receiving from others and through the transits, and where you can build your wisdom because you're learning and experiencing that as it comes in. And the healthy way is to allow that to be flowy, just like feminine energy, to have it come in, learn from it, experience it, and then let it out and not hold on to it, not internalize it as your own, but have that awareness that it's actually coming from outside of you. And that process, that continual flow is what is the most important to build your wisdom.
Yeah. So for me, I have an undefined solar plexus. So the biggest shift in learning human design, it's that I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm very empathic, and I take on people's energies very easily if I'm not aware of it. And I was not aware of it when I started this journey, obviously, right? I used to feel so much, I used to have so much anger in me. That's been the biggest shift in my journey, like healing my anger and all of that. But when I realized that I had an undefined solar plexus, and that took a toll on me because I felt like so heavy about it. I just felt so upset about it that I was taking on people's energy so easily. But when I had that awareness, and then I would be in situations or around people that I felt okay. And then all of a sudden I felt angry. And then when I had that awareness of my solar plexus, I started feeling a little bit more at ease and compassionate toward myself instead of feeling frustrated. But it was still a little bit of a process because I'm like, okay, now how do I manage not feeling what they're feeling? Because I'm very emotional. Like even on TikTok, I cry every day for strangers because I go in and if there's a proposal video or someone coming home from the military, I just cry, right? So that for me, that's healthy. But if it's like, I was living with someone who had a lot of anger issues, and all of a sudden I would feel so angry, and I would just be like, okay, that's not my anger. That's not my anger. Release and let it go. It's kind of like you're saying, like this flow. So for me, that's being the biggest thing, like learning about human design besides my authority, my not self theme, my, feeling like the satisfaction and all of that. It's learning the defined and undefined centers and doing the work around my shadow and doing that inner work around the undefined centers. And like, for example, me trying to prove myself, or me, like, why am I not putting myself out there? And just like kind of understanding that. But I think that's been such a huge game changer for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Mary. I love that. Yeah, it's like when you have that validation that, oh, yeah, like I am really open. Like that's why I'm so sensitive, because I'm open to all of that energy coming in. It can be heavy, like you said, because it's like you might even feel like, oh, like that's a bad thing, like that's negative, like that creates weakness for you, right? But to reframe that, there's nothing good or bad about our designs. It's just what is. And we have to have, as humans, for us to thrive, we have to have both strength and wisdom in every center, the masculine and the feminine, for us to grow and to develop. And so we have to have people that give those that consistent emotional energy, that depth of experience, those high highs, those low lows, where lots of creativity actually comes through those low lows, in order for the wise ones to experience that and to take it in, to not be afraid of that, but to just, like you said, realize, okay, this is not mine. This is not mine. And to let that natural process also be reassuring, because you know that it's not going to last. Like it's a process. So you're not always going to feel that from that person. And that emotions are like the tide, right? They go out and they come in. And we don't ever question, like, oh my gosh, the tide just went out. Is it going to come back? I don't know. Like, and whenever it comes in, like, we know, like, we trust in that cyclical nature as women, we have seasons of our life. We
Yeah.
have a cycle, usually once a month. Like we trust in all of these cycles. And that's the same thing with our emotions, is trusting that cyclical nature of the emotional wave.
Mhm.
Um, and remembering that there's nothing wrong with you when you are feeling super sensitive, like you saying how you like cry when you see happy or even sad things on TikTok. That's actually wonderful that you're that
Mhm.
sensitive, because the only thing that can create failure, if you want to label it that, is to be avoidant
Mhm.
of emotions and to be blocked off from that openness, because that then shuts down your
Yeah.
wisdom, that shuts down your connection, and that shuts down the growth that we can all experience together, like at an individual level and as a collective.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it also gives you a lot, like you said, validation, because now I understand why I'm so emotional. Now I understand why I'm so sensitive. And shame on those people that told me I'm too sensitive, you know?
Exactly.
Now it's like, no, this is my superpower because I can feel what you are feeling, but I wouldn't feel it for the person. I just like I'm so in tune with that other person that I know what they're going through. So that's made me a better coach. And even in my energy healing sessions with Reiki, like I am so in tune with each when I'm
Mhm.
doing my chakra cleansing and everything. Like I feel things at a deeper level. But yeah, it's given me a lot of validation as to who I used to be, like my shadow self and everything. Learning like the undefined and defined center is like, oh, this is why I am the way I am. And for example, I have a undefined G center. So I always feel different every single day. And I had to come to the point that I stopped feeling so shameful around that and
Mhm.
realizing that, like, no, obviously I grow and evolve every single day. I feel different every single day. I'm a cyclical wild woman. I align with the moon. The moon changes every single day. Like, of course, like I have to be okay with that. And now I'm like every day, I just kind of like, you also help me embody this, that I have to be okay with the like those waiting periods where things are not happening, and I
Mhm.
just have to kind of be within, and just knowing that every day, if I feel different every day, that it's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think too, for people that are, so we've talked about open. So, like people, if you have a defined center, there can also be a lot of guilt that you might
Mhm.
experience from that. Um, like with if your defined spleen, like that gives you so much power when you are connected to that intuition and that illogical knowing. And um, it's really important for you to use that, and not just for yourself, but it can help, you make decisions for people that you care for, people in your business, like people that you coach in sessions, like you said, that can help you really tap into what their needs are with that open solar plexus and that defined spleen. Um, and remembering that it's important for you to use that energy in a healthy way. Even just because it's defined doesn't mean you automatically are powerful with it.
Mhm.
You have to still be using it in a healthy way. Otherwise, you're going to be frustrated
Mhm.
with that energy.
Mhm.
So again, that's like relating that back to the masculine feminine. That's that healthy masculine, right? Like
Mhm.
providing that energy that's consistent in your body in a healthy way, so that it does provide that strength and that structure for other people and
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so good. So I have a question for you. How
Yeah.
has learned, how has it been learning and embodying human design? How has actually the better question is, how has that transformed you as a woman, as a wife, and as a mother, knowing and embodying human design?
Yeah. So I identify as a woman. And so I actually have a lot of like duality in my design because I'm a projector. And that to me is more of a feminine kind of energy because it's more intuitive, more like focused on the other. Um, but I have a defined root and I have a defined ajna, and my ajna is connected to my throat. Um, and so I really think that it's helped me harmonize and use those particular more masculine energies in that healthy masculine way, especially with my root center. Because looking back when I was younger, when I first entered like the workforce, I overused that a lot. And I really burned myself out because I tried to use that root center, that pressurized adrenaline energy in replace of a sacral that I didn't have defined. And so that caused a lot of burnout. So human design really helped me harmonize that more masculine definition that I have, but in a more feminine, laid back way. And trusting, especially like with my solar plexus, trusting that cyclical nature, being able, like you mentioned, to be in those in between times and let it be and not force myself through that process prematurely. So that's where the magic happens, is then the waiting and letting that process build magnetism for yourself and your ideas and your creativity and all of that. So as a woman, that is kind of how I've loved embodying human design. And as a mother, it has helped me so much with my kids because, like I said, they're manifesting generators with defined hearts. So they have a lot of energy. And I remember so many times when they were little and still taking naps. But this was before human design. I would try to force naps on them because I'm a projector. I need a rest. I need space. And I would spend like an hour trying to get them down for a nap. And then they would sleep maybe like 15 minutes and then be up. And then so it's like, oh my gosh, what I could have done that would have been more efficient. I could have just instead created like a safe space for them to play and still burn off that energy and give me some space. Or I could have gotten extra help and had like, just a babysitter, like, okay, I just need a babysitter for an hour and a half every afternoon so that I can take a nap and they can like still exhaust their energy and play and like be happy. And so just that one example could have, if I would have had human design in my life then, I could have had, again, that structure to help validate my needs and their needs and help all of us stay in alignment together. So that it's really exciting for me to be in a place where my kids are still young, so I can see how having human design, having those tools and that validation of how they should be honored so that they can grow up authentically as themselves, how much of a difference that makes. It really does. And like we have gone out to like different kids parties and like even when we're just out in public sometimes, and I see other children, and it makes me really sad because there's so many kids that I see that are so disconnected like to who they are. Like you can just see it in their face that there's like this light that's missing from their eyes. Like, does that make sense? Like I can just see the difference in my kids. Of course they're my kids, so they're always going to like be more special to me, but I really do see a difference in them and other kids that are not allowed to be themselves, that are told to be quiet and sit still and stop doing that, stop doing this. Like very much, there's a lot of control that
It's
I
like
think
this
parents,
suppression versus
yes,
non-suppression. Like you,
yes.
like,
And I
yeah, I
think
can, yeah.
we,
Mhm.
yeah, we create like a lot of resistance, where if we would just surrender to who our kids are, then we would create less resistance for ourselves and save ourselves so much time and energy and just letting our kids be. And another thing is like I see so many kids that are diagnosed with like
Oh
ADHD
my
and
gosh.
ADD
Yes.
and stuff. And I'm telling you, if I didn't know who my kids were at an energetic level as manifesting generators with open heads and open ajnas and defined hearts, I would definitely think that there was like something wrong with them, or there was something wrong with me because I didn't know how to handle them. Um, just as an example, like when they were like 4 and under, maybe like 3 and under, they both, anytime we went out to eat at a restaurant, we couldn't just sit and wait for our food. Like one of us would have to walk around with them and like walk through the restaurant and like look at things on the wall and walk outside if it was nice outside, and like let them physically move, because otherwise they would just be like all over the place. And same thing after we were eating, like as soon as they were done, they wanted to get up. And, a lot of parents wouldn't do that. I know, like a lot of parents would go through that, sit down, be quiet, we're going to leave if you don't behave. Like all of that control and like breeding frustration and all of that. Like it was so much better for us to just honor that and to just surrender to, okay, they can't sit still for very long, like they have to be moving. Yeah, so
No, that, oh my gosh, I have so many things on my because so I'm not a mom, but I'm a super auntie and I'm a godmother. And every time my four nieces and my baby nephew, as soon as they were born, I got their human design
mhm.
because I will never tell my brother or my sister or my sisters-in-law how to parent because that's not my place. But for me, it's like I want to know their human design so I can be a better auntie. And if they don't get that from home, that understanding of who they are energetically, then they will get that from me. So that's been my biggest goal with and they're all manifesting generators. Go figure. Two of them are emotional authorities. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Now I understand why
mine
my
are
sister is
too. They
so,
also are
oh
emotional
my God.
authority.
So now I understand that. And I so agree that they become so hyper, right? When with their energies. So if you are not aware of this, then you would definitely think like they have ADHD or ADD, or there's some attention deficit, something, or, they would, and you would feel shameful and frustrated that you're a bad mom because you can't control your kids. And I come from a culture that behavior correcting was done through pinching, through hitting, through like threatening, through,
Mhm.
making you feel really
Shaming.
bad. Yeah. And hitting you. So
Mhm.
I come from that culture that I wish my mom's a projector actually. I wish that my mom would have understood our energetic blueprint, and instead of telling us to, or hitting us, even my dad too, that they would have been more compassionate toward us. But obviously they didn't have this. And
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure this was not even out when I was born. I don't remember. When was Human Design started again? I
So,
can't remember.
really, like it really got going in like the early 90s, but
Okay, yeah, definitely.
the knowledge was downloaded in 1987.
Okay, definitely. Way before. Yeah. So, yeah, so like this has been such a good conversation around this because I feel like a lot of moms could really benefit from understanding human design for themselves and also for their children and their spouse. Let me just say that too. That is
Yes.
very important. So like I have, and it, honestly, every time I date someone or even with my ex-husband, I downloaded their human design because I wanted to understand better what they were going through or how they operated. That for me was like so important to understand. And it's just helped me like night and day, like shift and transform my life. And I'm still embodying it every day. I'm still working through it every day. I'm still learning through it every day. But now it's given me more permission to really connect with authentically who I am. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And honoring that and not creating that unnecessary resistance.
Yeah.
Right. Because then if we just honor who our kids are from the time they're born, then we don't have all of this unlearning that they have to do later. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you're a mom out there or a dad or a parent, caretaker, whatever, and an auntie, um, even if you just know, like if they're sacral or not, like
Mhm.
that is a huge opening for you to just know if they have that sacral response
Mhm.
or if they're not. Like that can open up so many ideas for you to nurture how they make decisions, how they like sleep and rest and working, and just like how to relate to them. All of those things, like just knowing that one center definition
Mhm.
could open up so many doors.
Yeah, totally get it. So, how has your truth changed um, over the years now that you have embodied human design? Like who you used to be before and underneath all the conditioning, programming, everything. What is the truth of you today?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately, like how really it's been a coming home, like I said, like a coming back. It's like I don't feel that I have changed who I have been. Like I'm not a different person. I'm actually just realizing that I've been this wise, beautiful soul my whole life. Like even remembering just being with myself when I was like 6, like 5 and 6. Like it's that I'm that same woman inside. And that has been really empowering to remember to come back to that truth of who I am. And that I have gone through a lot of different challenges and dark periods in my life, but it hasn't changed me. It's just fortified who I am. And it's led me back to trusting who I am and continuing to evolve as that same person.
I love that. Like the fortifying word for some reason stood up to me. I really like that. I'm gonna use that if you don't mind too.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I love
I
that
just feel
word.
so like strong, like
Yes.
I don't know. There's got like a steel strength to it for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, but also like a softness, right?
Yes,
It's like,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, what current offerings do you have, or if someone is interested in just creating this home for their soul and really reconnecting back to themselves and who they are, what offerings do you currently have for someone that wants to learn more about you, your coaching, your wisdom, and everything that you offer?
Yeah. So, well, if you're a parent or you have children in your life, I have my book is available now. I have a few signed copies left. Actually, my friend Shayla Drabness was the illustrator, and she and I have a few signed copies left. So that's available. And it's We Are All Light again. I also, which I mentioned before, I offer personal sessions. I have several different offerings for human design readings. I call those my sessions, and including relationship sessions, which are great for loving partnership or parent-child, any kind of family relationships. I also offer one-on-one coaching by request. And that can be intensive, like we did together for your business, for your entrepreneurship, but can be for really any aspect of your life. I have a specialized offering for mothers, new mothers and repeat mothers. And it also works for adoptive mothers, because with human design, if we know your body graph, we can know all about you. It doesn't have to be biological mother or parent. And that's called Crown of Light. And I actually just completed my training for birth doula. So I'm now,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, so now I include birth doula support as well as the postpartum support within that Crown of Light program. And that is open now for the summer. I'm accepting a limited number of mothers for the summer for that. And then I do want to mention one more offering that is not open right now, but it is like my signature embodiment program, and that's called Nurture by Nature. And I offer that twice a year. So we're actually finishing up the spring session now, and it will open again in the fall, probably late summer, early fall. But that is a really rich introduction or just deeper embodiment of your human design. And we go into another one of my specialties within that program, which is connecting to Mother Earth. So I really love using Mother Earth as our example for self-care and for trusting ourselves as women, and all of our cycles, right? Mother Earth really is that first example that we have to trust that cyclical nature and to trust the strength and the wisdom that we have had and always have had. So yeah, that's Nurture by Nature. But all of my offerings are in my linked in my Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Facebook as well. And if it is aligned for you, I would love for you to have you in the Modern Homemaker community on Facebook. It's a free community. I do a weekly human design Ask Me Anything in there, and lots of other different workshops. That's usually where I have my free master classes and things like that. So would love to have you in there. That'll be linked as well on my social media. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I highly recommend your one-on-one coaching. It really helped me, especially with the embodiment piece and getting more clarity around my business and what it is that I really want to kind of like do, because it's so much different to market it based on my open and defined centers, because I had this awareness that before that I couldn't do certain type of coaching because that previous human design coach told me. So then I was just so confused, because I'm like, okay, so this is what I really want to do, but how do I market it? So like when I came to you, you customize a plan for me and a plan of action. And that's like the very masculine structure that I needed, but there was also this feminine aspect when it came to the embodiment, which I'm still working on, because there were periods that I would be like, nothing was happening. There was like, just like the waiting period, and I would be so frustrated. And then you just helped me to understand that I just have to be more graceful around those periods and just be kind of like, not content with it, but just be more at ease and more compassionate, and just like nothing's wrong with me, because I've experienced those, because I used to feel like what's wrong with me? I should be doing this. I was shooting all over me. And then kind of like the embodiment piece of that and like moving away from that, that's really, really helped me like feel grounded and feel like, know that, okay, I'm going through this and I'm just going to honor that. And I'm just going to be kinder to myself around this period and not force not force.
Yes.
That's been huge game changer. So I highly recommend that. So all the links to all your programs, your offerings is going to be in the show notes, and also how people can reach out to you, and everything is going to be in the show notes. So like that I'm happy about that. And so what is one last thing that you can tell the women listening to this podcast, like anything that is coming out of your soul right now?
This is something that I have in my daily affirmations that I write out for myself, and something that we use in Nurture by Nature, actually. And it's a little mantra. So you can let's just do it right now.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, you can like close your eyes if that feels good. But it's just a couple different phrases. So, and you can repeat after me. I am creation.
I am creation.
I am worthy.
I am worthy.
I am safe.
I am safe.
I am love.
I am loved.
I am whole.
I am whole.
And that's it. You're whole. And that's what I want to remind everyone listening, is that you're whole. And it's not, even if you're feeling broken, it's not that you're broken. It's just you need to trust your wholeness.
I really love how soft you are. How like in your feminine you are. You're just soft. You're just like, you take your time. It's just like this very motherly, like Mother Earth, like like energy that comes from you. Like I don't know if anyone has told you that. You radiate that.
Yes.
Not because you're a mother, but you have this very nurturing, I guess that's the word, nurturing energy. Yeah,
that's one of my strengths, is just grounded, like calm.
Yeah, like you feel like,
for people.
like calm. Yeah, there we go. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. I can't wait for people to connect with you, to follow you, and to hopefully desire to work with you, because the embodiment of human design has really transformed my life. And I know it has definitely transformed your life. So I'm so excited for what's to come for you and your brand and the modern homemaker. Now that I understand the concept, it's like, oh, that's a different spin. I like it.
Yeah, it's going to roll off your tongue a little easier now.
Yeah, I know, right? There's not going to have this heaviness because of my feminine lineage behind it. So it's good. It's good. Well, thank you so much, Libby. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Really, honestly, I am in so much gratitude for you inviting me on the podcast. And I absolutely love the work that you're doing in this world. And it was absolutely my pleasure. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being part of this conversation on the Feminine Truth Podcast. This podcast is for you, for me, for us, for the feminine collective. Thank you for spending your time and energy with us. I so appreciate it. Please, it would mean so much if you could share this in your Instagram stories, in your Facebook stories, or everywhere, so this message gets spread and others can find this podcast and this conversation. And if you feel like someone needs to hear this message, please share with them. I would be so grateful for you, and let us know your thoughts, how this has helped you, how you connected with this topic, or how this has felt in your body. And lastly, if you feel the pull, I would be immensely grateful if you could take the time to leave a review so more people can find my podcast and this conversation. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you on the next episode.